This tree here is at the edge of the Grocery Road Gardens, and it bore a lot of pears this last year. However, the pears were a bitter and astringent. They had a little bit of sweetness to them, but the astringency was horrible. They were about this big, tons and tons of them, and they were so bad that even when fully ripe and cooked, they were still inedible. So this is not a pear that we want to eat. The cows ate it, but we couldn't eat it. So we're going to over graft it and use this existing rootstock. I just have to figure out where I want to cut this, because as you see here, there was some previous damage. This tree had a very badly cut limb right here, and this is likely to continue to cause rot into the tree. So ideally we would take this entire space out right here, but I kind of like the V structure of it right now, so it's confusing. I think I'm gonna have to cut that out and hope that it reshoots a new shoot over here that I can save, and I could maybe keep this side up to about here or here and take this side out and then overgraft on these pieces. If I really wanted to do it properly, probably I would go all the way down and stomp it and then bark graft it. But these are so nice to graft onto, I'm rather just use some of them. When you see the buds starting to awaken on the tree, you know the sap is rising, and that's the time when you want to graft, because your grafts will heal together. As the sap rises and the cambium joins, it'll all heal together. There's a huge amount of life coming up from the roots into this tree right now as the weather warms, and that's the time to graft, and that's why we're doing this right now instead of earlier or later. Later in the year, they're likely going to fail. Earlier in the year, they're likely going to fail. This is the time. We have a magic couple of weeks where we have to drop everything and get out and graft. Out of these, now we have to select which ones we're going to keep. And we also nicked some. I nicked some. I'll take personal responsibility. It's not because my camera lady is so distracting. Now what we need to do is match up our scion wood. See if we can hit the right diameters and hopefully get 3 different varieties, or at least 2 different varieties of pear on here, so we have pollinators for each other, because each one of these scions is going to be a distinct individual. So the pear is actually going to become a self-pollinator because it'd be multiple individuals sharing the same rootstock. You don't have to get fancy with your grafting equipment. Razor knife, flagging tape, pruners. That's it.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Let's make a sloping diagonal cut. The less whittling, the better. And it has to be flat on the inside. That little bump right there is not going to work. It's got to actually be as close to flat as possible. We could just take a little more right there. Flatten it out. There we go. There's one side. And now we have to match that on our scion wood. There we go. Wanted to join together so the cambium matches. Now I'm going to put a notch right here. And then I will put a matching notch in here. And now the idea is those two fit together.
You can lose your fear. You can lose your
There we go.
fear. of grafting, baby. You can lose your fear of grafting, baby, baby. Ow, ow, I cut myself with a grafting knife. Ooh, but I'm gonna lose my fear.
I've had birds land on the grafts before and knock them off before they heal. When they're like this, they're really, really weak. Bird says, oh, that's a nice place to hang out and catch crickets. Knocks the whole thing off. I like to pull it as tight as possible around the graft itself to pull the cambium tightly in there. And the thing that often kills them is drying out. So you don't want it to dry out and you don't want it to lose that connection. There's that layer of cambium right beneath the bark, which is an important connection. You don't have that, you're in trouble. The great benefit of doing the whip and tongue method that I'm doing here is that when you're by yourself, you don't have anybody to hold the graft for you. It holds it together mostly, so you know, it'll stick by itself, whereas if you do just a straight slanting cut and try to tie it together, it's insanely difficult to do because you don't have enough hands. That method was designed for octopi. As I was grafting the top, my wife warned me that my foot was in this fire ant hill, which is at the base of the pear tree. So I'm going to respectfully get rid of them. This one here I'm going to do a little differently because it's a wider diameter. So this wider diameter is not going to fit one of these little guys right here. So we're going to do a different type of graft, which is a little riskier. Wow, we need the big loppers. This is a cleft graft. So we use this exact tool here. This is a different kind of cut we're going to do here. We're going to actually cut both sides. And then we'll only match the cambium on one side, which is so weird. We want this side here to be an exact wedge so it fits in and joins at some point. If that right there connects, the entire thing will heal around it. Look it out now, see it's pulling it tight? That's what we want. I want it to go tight, tight, tight in here. So it's really joined. And then we want to cover all this stuff up where it could possibly dry out and die as much as possible. This is just cheap flagging tape from the hardware store. It only costs like $1 or $2 a roll or something like that. It's for marking boundaries, but it has just the right amount of stretchiness. And if you figure out how to tie it off correctly, it works really, really well. So my wife was just saying that this tree now looks like somebody in a body cast recovering from severe injuries.
I hurt myself today.
But if you think of the potential productivity now, we should have at least 3 different varieties of pear if these grafts live. If they don't, at least some of them should live. Whatever varieties we get, we get. So rather than a tree that was bearing one inedible variety of pear, now we've got a multi-grafted type that should bear a whole bunch of beautiful, useful fruit from named varieties. And also, this tree had a lot of damage on it, which we cut out, and so it should heal out of that and should come back a better tree. And if it dies, well, it was a bad tree anyways. It was not producing good fruit. So it wasn't particularly useful to anything except to throw to the cows or throw into the worm bed. So this is making it useful, but it's not gonna die. The very worst thing that happens in this case is that none of the grafts take and the tree grows back from the rootstock. And if that happens, we could always just graft it again. If you want to learn about grafting, I wrote a book called Free Plants for Everyone, which I explain, and I have drawings and explanations of why you'd want to do it and how you do it. And also I cover how to start just about everything from trees to vegetables to seeds to how you tell the difference between GMO and non-GMO. It's in that book, Free Plants for Everyone, The Good Guide to Plant Propagation. I'll put a link below. And if you want to learn more about just grafting and you're too cheap to buy my books, I'll also put a link to my demonstration video, Get Grafting. Thanks for joining me. As the season continues, we'll come back and take a look at this tree and see how this worked or didn't work, but it's probably gonna work. Catch you next time. And until then, may your thumbs always be green.